Okay, so I'm about to import a file here. This is a toy soldier that I'm going to animate, and I want to make sure I import it as a composition. So I'm going to open that up, and I should have my toy soldier here as a comp. I'm just going to change the background color so I can see it a little bit better. Let's go to just the standard gray. So you can see the soldier here. All of these layers are labeled accordingly. And what I want to do is make a walk cycle with this character. It's going to be kind of rigid like a toy soldier is, just like a marching motion. So a few things to look at here. First of all, I got to move these joints around. I'm going to go to the pan behind tool and make sure the front arm, I'm moving that joint, the axis, up to the shoulder, the head. I'm probably not going to animate the head, but if I wanted to, maybe it needs to go here. The front leg, again, where is that front leg joint? Probably around here. The torso is probably not going to be moving, actually. And then it looks like I got the back leg, which is going to be about there. The back arm, similar to where the front arm is. So I have those axis points moved out of the way or moved into the right location. The next thing I want to do is keyframe these. So what I'm going to do is hit R to get the rotation. Maybe I'll just keyframe these all like this, and you know, let's see, we want it to move maybe at, let's just say maybe at 1 second it goes to here. So we want it to rotate. Some of these are gonna rotate in a positive direction. Like for example, well, this front arm is gonna go in a positive direction. So maybe this will go all the way back to, is it 90? Yeah, it looks like it's at 90. So we'll do that here. That, like the head, like I said, is probably not gonna move. The front leg here, I believe in this case it's gonna go negative 90. Whoops, I was on the wrong portion. Here we go, front leg, let's go negative 90. That's gonna push it forward. So we're trying to move everything over. This back leg will probably go to 90. There we go. And the back arm, I believe, is gonna go negative 90. There we go. So this is basically one kind of, it's not a full cycle, it's actually one like half cycle here. The next thing that I wanted to do is maybe just talk about how we could use an expression to kind of animate this over and over again. Because what I need to do if I wanted this to repeat is I'd have to basically take, let's do the front arm. I need to do this and just copy and paste these keyframes and just kind of do this over and over again. So we're just looking at the front arm. What I want to happen is this kind of motion back and forth, all the way around. But it would be maybe a little bit annoying if I had to keep keyframing this, and then if I changed the how long this was, like if I wanted to be shorter, then maybe it would be kind of hard because I'd need to do this, and then I would maybe need to move all these back. You know, it could be kind of tedious. So one thing I'm going to do is try to use an expression instead. Expressions can be activated by clicking on the keyframe icon and holding down Option. So I hit Option and click, and then you can see this has turned red, and it lets me get into this code here. So what I'm going to do in this case is write an expression called loop out. And in loop out, you can put in this, you can put in a certain type of, I guess, argument or kind of some code here to tell what type of loop to do. In this case, if I had a full cycle, that's like the arm goes back and then up and then back again. That would be a cycle, but I wanted to kind of bounce back, do something that's called ping pong. So it's nice that it gives you these options. It tells you what the things are, but this is something just called ping pong because we really only have half a cycle. So again, we're just watching that front arm ping pong back and forth. And so that's nice because it can just keep doing that over and over. And again, if I changed the speed of this to like this, and maybe I'll just solo this so we can just see, it will move like that over and over again. So this to me is like a kind of a nice way for me to set like a steady loop. Okay. So I could go and do that to all of these things here. That's one way to do it. But I'm actually going to back out a little bit and maybe use this same idea to work on the whole composition itself, rather than doing each layer individually. I think maybe I'll do everything kind of at once. So I'm going to actually delete this. You can turn that off. So now it only does it once. And the idea is I just want to make sure that we are all synced up. I think this one's a little bit off. Okay, so we're all synced up again. Okay, so let me make a new composition and show you what I'm trying to do here. I'll just make it another color just to be different here. So this is my new comp. I want to put that toy soldier comp into this. And remember, it goes all the way to 1 second, and where it does sort of half a cycle. And from here, I want it to ping pong. Now, I could have done all those layers separately, but I want to show this one thing is I can go into time and put on enable time remapping. So what the loop out function does is it lets me take 2 keyframes and loop between them. The 2 keyframes I want are not, well, one of them is the first one. It's not the last one out here actually that I want. I want this keyframe right here at 1 second. So I'm going to drop a keyframe there. I'm going to just delete this one because I don't need that anymore. And I'll do that thing again where I turn on an expression. I'm going to hit Option and click on this stopwatch, loop out. Capitalization matters here. Loop out. Let's put quotes and let's do our ping pong there. Okay, so now instead of doing all the layers separately, I basically took this moment in time and I'm sort of looping it around. That's essentially what's happening. And if you're looking here, it's giving you the reading of what the time is playing. So this is saying right now it's playing frame 20, frame 19, 17. It's going to play all the way down to frame 0 and then go back in the other direction. So that's kind of what's happening. These values are ping-ponging back and forth. And that is a quick loop setup. This is a really quick intro into expressions, but maybe there's, and I'm going to do a video that has more expressions here, but I actually wanted to take this as a start and then talk about some ways that I could add different looks to this animation to kind of roughen it up or add some texture using maybe some of this stuff, but also some other techniques. So that's what I'm gonna do next. One thing that we can do to treat this animation is use what are called adjustment layers. So these are located in the layers window, layer, adjustment layer. Now, an adjustment layer, it doesn't really appear on your screen, but it can hold effects information and it can stylize any footage that's underneath it. So that's kind of an interesting fact. You can, by placing this in different places, in a different order, you can affect only some layers or all layers if this sits on top. So for example, what I could do is grab this adjustment layer and I might want to, I could use color correction or something. I could go to hue and saturation and maybe I just move the colors around this way and you can see that this would change it for everything. Right now I only have one layer, but imagine if I had the whole toy soldier or just a bunch, like a huge file, and I was like, just wanted to recolor everything. This could be kind of a nice thing for me to do. Maybe one thing I want to do is I have this animation and it's vector based and it's kind of, maybe it's too stiff or maybe it's just too straight. One thing I could do is go up into here and, maybe roughen the edges a little bit. We'll go up to here, stylize roughen edges, and you can see that now we added a little bit of a kind of natural look to it. You can play around with that. One thing we could also do is leave it like that, or animate the evolution so that it's like, it looks like it's kind of moving over time. So we'd want to, keyframe that there, and maybe I'll just do a few revolutions, and you kind of need to dial it in, but this could be, an example of what that looks like. I think maybe I need a little bit more. There we go. So now I'm just going to crank it up a lot so you can see now that rough and edges it almost looks like it's hand drawn. It's got that movement on it. So that's, that's one thing we could do. I want to show another way that we could get a similar effect, just kind of looking at, a different take on this. I can turn these off by just turning off the visible button. So maybe I'll do that. I'll show another way to do this. We'll do an adjustment layer again, but this one I'm going to call displacement, and I guess this one I can just call. Whoops! I'm just going to label this rough and edges. And okay, let's go back to our file. I want to make sure I'm back in composition 1 here. So I actually made a displacement map in this composition, and I want to tell you what I did to get to this. Just made a new composition, made a solid. It doesn't even matter what color it is, because what you do is you go into the effect fractal noise. You can always search for it here. Fractal, noise and grain. So sometimes I forget exactly where they're located, but you can always search for them. So I grabbed that, and what that looks like is this kind of noise here. And then what I want to do is animate that. I use a turbulent displacement, which you can see I've cranked up, I think, the amount. Yeah, the amount's pretty high, and I'm keyframing the evolution of this. So if you look, this number is changing, and that's what's giving it this swirling, turbulent motion. And one thing we can do is use this displacement, or this animation, and offset our previous animation. So I'm going to go back to comp 1. And what I'm going to do is that pre-comp that I made, this displacement, I'm going to just drag it into here. You're going to see it's covering everything. I actually don't need to have this turned on. I just need it in my file. And what I'll do is I'll click on this displacement adjustment layer, and I'm going to go up to distort and displacement map. So this is an effect. Again, the adjustment layer can hold effects on them. I need to go and choose what's the displacement map. In this case, it's confusing because I call it displacement, but it's actually this thing up here. And maybe I should rename this so that it's a little bit more clear. Displacement map. There we go. So if I go into the effects again, yeah, I'm going to displacement map. That's the source. And what I want to use for horizontal displacement is the luminance, the lightness or darkness. And we'll do that for the vertical displacement. And you can kind of see that like turn it on and off, that black and white image, that animation is affecting this. I can crank it up some more. Right now it's only at 5, but I could crank it up. Whoa, now it's really getting distorted and smeared. That's probably too much, but maybe there's a place where you can go and play around with this. That looks like it's starting to burn away, but again, you can tweak these settings. Maybe that's still too much, but this is me kind of adding, using a displacement map, using an adjustment layer to maybe get a similar effect to the rough and edges, but this is maybe giving us a little bit more control. Okay, so that's that idea as well. We can stack these adjustment layers. So one thing you could do is, let's get a new adjustment layer. we can put on different effects. Maybe we'll try something. It's like posterized time, which is kind of a neat effect. It lets you sort of slow down time or make time more choppy. 24 frames is going to be pretty smooth. It's going to be like if we do this, it's going to be like film is at 24 frames per second. Just to give you an idea of what does that look like, that little bit right there. If we really want to see this effect, we could do something like a frame rate of 2, and this is going to be really steppy, and you can see it's almost like stop motion at this point, right? So this is having an effect, and you can kind of play around with this, and it could give it a more hand-done or analog type of feel. It could make it feel like you're having to draw these frames individually. Right, so it just gives it a different look. Wanted to play around with this other idea of, again, adjustment layers only work on the layers beneath them. So if I'm just duplicating these toy soldiers. I'm making some soldiers to the left and the right, some buddies. Let's move them to this side. But I still want this main center person to be sort of highlighted. So maybe what I'll do is bring in a new adjustment layer over only these two soldiers right here. And then I could, maybe I'll add a little bit of a blur so they get kind of faded out like that. Maybe I can also add in some color correction. If I bring down the saturation maybe, and maybe bring down the lightness, so they're maybe more in shadow, or just kind of, I don't know, a little bit less important somehow. And you can go back in here. Maybe there's some other things. Maybe just scaling these down too will help. Scale it down. Move it. Yeah, so we're using those adjustment layers. We got some over the whole composition. We got one just down here. So maybe that's a way for us to stylize this footage. And yeah, what does that look like? I just wanted to talk about a few other ways that you might want to treat the footage. One is by maybe adding some grain or some other texture on top. This is some footage I just downloaded. You can see what that looks like. What I'm going to do is drag it onto my composition, and you can see it's sitting on top. It's black and white. Maybe you want to scale it to the screen. But we can play with the blend modes here, and we could do something like maybe overlay, or well, actually, before I do that, one thing that I want to talk about is before I had this, you could see this like green color. That's coming from the composition itself. It's not actually composition settings. It's not actually in the comp. So if I want things to blend properly, I do want to put like a solid layer. So I guess I could put this green color and put it down here. I do want to let you know that this is right now it's being affected by this adjustment layer up here. So actually, that might be something that you want to look at. Maybe you just, again, it could be something like you put these effects on separately, or maybe we like that kind of darkness. But let's go back up into here and oh, whoops, this was not on. Sorry about that. So with screen on, yeah, you should see the white bits coming through, and maybe that's a way to add a little bit of texture onto this. Just again, we're playing with the look of it. There's what that looks like. This is rendering right now. It's just taking a little bit of time. Okay, so there's that type of look. We're just treating it. I have this other footage here, which is kind of like light leaks. So some sort of colored, full, chromatic things happening in camera effects. Yeah, let's put that on there too. Maybe we'll put that on top. I think there's some sections where there's more activity. Yeah, maybe here, like there's more color. And again, we're going to go into the modes. And if you don't see the modes here, then just toggle switches and modes. And maybe we can just see difference is going to give it some crazy things. Maybe it's a soft light kind of colors it a little bit. You could play with the transparency as well. Maybe it's this plus that, and you're adding that kind of like vintage hazy look. You're mixing those things together. I could see you masking parts of this out. Yeah, so I think there's a number of ways to treat the footage. So you could start with an animation that looks very vectory, that looks very digital, and then start to degrade it, or I shouldn't say degrade it, but just start to treat it in a way that makes it just feel like it has a little bit more character to it. Yeah, so again, just try some different things out. Maybe put adjustment layers on top and play around with it. Have fun.